that core of feeling connected and being able to share that with other people, that's where it's at.
Absolutely. So today we're here with our friend Alexia Allen of Hawthorn Farm, and this is part of our series where we're taking you on field trips to local homesteads. We always say that there's no one right way to homestead, only the way that's right for you, and so this is a great way for us and for you to get ideas about how to live a more sustainable life. So I first met Alexia, or I heard about Alexia, because just as I was leaving my career in wilderness survival and nature connection nonprofit schools, Alexia was coming in, and actually I cleared out of a room as she moved in. And that's where I first met you, which was probably nearly 2 decades ago.
Yes, a little over.
Yeah. So tell me about how you went from that place to here.
Well, I've always loved eating food and growing food. Even though it really wasn't part of my childhood, wasn't really a big part of my upbringing, I still had those seeds planted, metaphorically, and that took me into studying ecology. I was about to go get my PhD in environmental sciences, and then all of a sudden I said, well, I'm going to do this 1 year at Wilderness Awareness School. And so I came and moved into the room that you had just left for years. I think I had one of your t-shirts that you had left there for me. And so that world of wilderness survival skills and outdoor education was a big part of my career. And then I realized, how do I make that more accessible to as many people as possible? Because not everybody is going to go Napa, Flint, Arrowhead, and like stalk through the mountains hunting an elk. Like, that's just not quite the world where I can meet people. So can I just bring it to the suburbs and maybe eat a chicken in Suburbia and be able to involve more people in connected ways of living? Because that's what it's about, feeling connected, whether it's in the city, whether it's way out on a mountaintop, anywhere in between. What is the way that I can feel more connected to my landscape, to my community, human and beyond human? And so Hawthorn Farm, where we are right now, is just one expression of that. This is one little snapshot of the journey that we're on. This place is not going to look the same in another 20 years. And it sure didn't look like this when I moved here 20 years ago. So feeling like I'm part of a story, feeling like I'm connected to the landscape around me, that is the core value that's kept me going through my traditional academic education, through my career in environmental education, and now into my homestead life and homestead education. That core of feeling connected and being able to share that with other people, that's where it's at.
Absolutely.
So I love horses and I grew up riding, and then when I started farming, I said, well, wait a minute, I can do this with horses. So I've put them away for the season, but I have a number of horse-drawn cultivators. Duke, the bigger brown pony down there, he's an old Amish pony. He's been there, done that, so I can hitch him up and we cultivate this whole field here, get it ready for planting. Most of my garden areas are pretty small for a horse to work in, so that's why we're getting her trained up to be in harness, because she's like the compact garden tractor version. I also use the horses for mowing. I can set up a single strand of electric fence that's not actually electrified. Just don't tell them, okay? And they'll stay inside and they'll mow the lawn. So I'm taking the solar energy that lands here and I'm turning it into happy ponies who then give pony rides and, you know, kind of function pretty well on the farm. They can harvest nutrients off of the lawn, come poop them out right here, and we can add them to our compost. So I really enjoy working with ponies. I wouldn't necessarily say go get ponies if you don't love them, but for me they're totally worth it. And Nutmeg right here is needs more exercise, so we've got students over at the University of Washington designing a treadmill where she can actually be on the treadmill and generate electricity. So again, that's a way to turn the solar energy here into the ability to charge your phone or, you know, use an appliance even if the electricity is out. So that's right, cutie. Yes, we got jobs for you. Plus the cuteness. I mean, that's a crop, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's a necessary nutrient on a homestead.
I really enjoy working with the ponies. And this field
Thanks,
here, we
Nutmeg.
grow corn and beans and potatoes. You can't see a ton of it right now, but we do. This is where we grow a lot of our staple crop.
So how did you come to be here, and how did you get started with farming?
When I was about 5 years old, I have this vivid memory of pulling little tiny thready carrots out from underneath the pine tree in the garden where I had planted them. And this feeling of wanting to grow and eat food has been a constant in my life. And I wound up here just by happenstance, just driving around at the time when my husband at the time and I were looking for a place to live. And okay, here we are in a place that is okay for everybody's work, and it really just grew out of that. If you had told me then, back in 2003, that this farm would look the way it does, I would not have believed you. So it's a lot of it has just been, well, what do I do today, and what do I feel like doing now? And I can't say that there's been a lot of rhyme or reason to it, but it's been a ton of fun, which is very motivating. So I started in a wilderness living skills context, learning to eat wild edible plants. And when I moved here, I said, how can I eat one thing from the landscape every day? Why, look, there are these raspberry plants here. I'm going to eat one raspberry. I'm going to eat one plantain seed. I'm going to eat a clover leaf. I'm going to eat an egg from these chickens I just got. How can I eat one thing from the landscape every day? And that snowballed and snowballed until my husband and I did an entire year of eating only hand-harvested food in 2017, which was a ton of fun. And we spent 6 years building our skills up to the point where it felt like we could spend an entire year of not going to the grocery store at all, like not eating anything that came from a grocery store. And those 6 years were a very motivated preparation of learning how to garden, learning how to preserve food, not just how do I grow one great big crop of something and sell it, but how do I actually have enough food to eat every single day of the year at this latitude where we have long, cold, soggy winters. So I needed to learn how to ride that solar roller coaster, get a whole bunch of solar energy that we have in the summertime, and parcel it out over the rest of the year.
Awesome.
I am tremendously lucky to be married to somebody who loves to build awesome structures. That's a key part of the homestead. People sometimes say, what do you grow? You know, do you sell something at the farmer's market? I'm like, no. If I pencil it out, going and selling squash for $1.50 a pound is not going to do what we need in order to stay on the homestead. So we rent little structures like this. This is, you know, we have had somebody just stay in it last night, and it's a really sweet little building, and people can come be on the farm. Even though I sometimes have the urge to run away and just live in the mountains with my goats, I also realize here I am in suburbia. What's the resource around me? What's the need in my community? The need is to be connected to a farm, is to have someplace peaceful to come and stay and unplug. So Daniel just goes ahead and builds awesome little spots like this. I say that our most important crop is healthy, happy humans. So what do healthy, happy humans need? They need awesome habitat. So we have created some pretty good human habitat over the years of living here. You know, surrounded by raspberries, and there's even a wood-fired sauna over here, just to like...
Oh my gosh,
yeah.
I did not know you had a wood-fired sauna.
Mm-hmm. The rainwater shower, and then the little changing room. Nice antler handle. Yeah, we're saying how can we meet as many of our needs as possible from the sunlight that falls right here. We need to be clean and relaxed, so we can do that with wood from the trees made out of the sunlight and the air right here. We just love shortening our supply chains. Like, let's just make our supply chains super duper short. Okay, we have sunlight, we have air, we have water. What can we do with those? So let's see.
So for those who've never been to your farm or maybe aren't familiar with our region, can you paint us a picture using words? What does this place look like and smell like and sound like?
Once upon a time, there was a single-level stucco suburban house in Woodinville, Washington. And around this house, there was a bunch of flat, bare pasture that looked like a basketball court. And in the corner of the pasture, there were walls of Himalayan blackberry brambles. And now, 19 years later, I look around and I feel the breeze on my skin. I'm under some cool northwest clouds today, and I see plum trees, peach trees, cherries, raspberries. I see greenhouses. I see an outdoor shower and sink. I see rabbit cages with big gray fuzzy rabbits. Off past the tall grass, I see Duke's back. Duke the pony is out eating the luscious grass, and I see the ripe thimbleberries on the bushes. I can hear my husband and my sister-in-law taking care of the cabbage plants in the garden. I hear the roosters in the distance, and I feel peaceful, and I feel connected, and I know that I belong to this place. I know that I am made out of this place, and I feel at home. And I consider that a tremendous blessing and a tremendous gift, to feel that I belong in a place and that there are roots and earthworms and seeds and breezes all working in concert to create beauty. And that's what it feels like for me here. What's it like here? Well, I am made out of Hawthorn Farm. If you are what you eat, I have been eating this place for years. So I'm actually made out of the soil here in a cellular way. And the health of this place is the health of my body. So I've felt very motivated to help this place be healthy and beautiful, because I can only be as healthy and beautiful as the places I eat from. So I'm like, well, heck, let's just create that. And this land is a reflection of myself and my husband and all the people who have put in so much time and effort over the many years of being here. So it's certainly not just me by a long shot, but all of us have really tried to work towards the systemic beauty and health of this place. And it looks different than if somebody else were doing it. The landscape reflects me and I reflect the landscape. It's a relationship.
Yeah, that reciprocal relationship is such an important part of homesteading, I find. And when you were talking, what I really heard is, I think all of us who care about the well-being of the planet are very familiar with that idea of being the change that you want to see in the world. Mm-hmm. And I think sometimes that can seem esoteric or theoretical, but you really are literally physically embodying the change you want to see in the world, which is so inspiring.
It's just what most humans have done for most of human history. I'm like, oh, I eat in a place and it keeps me alive, so I feel invested in the health of that place. And for me, it feels so potent to do it on a really tiny level, on a really human scale level. What can I tackle with my available time and my available tools? And this is the answer that I've come up with. It's going to be different for everybody. Like I said, I could focus on growing specialty basil here and the landscape would look different. I could be a squash farmer and the land would look different. Like, what fits in the patterns that work for me? And when I first moved here in 2003, this looked like a basketball court. Like, I would crawl around and not see any earthworm castings at all. And now, like, entire children can just get lost in the grass. Oh my gosh,
so
are they
cool.
gonna jump? Oh,
Yeah.
they're jumping for raspberries.
Jumping. She's like, I'm really curious about what y'all are doing, but I don't know.
It's been super hard for me to garden here because of all the slugs we have. The slugs would just come in and eat the baby squash plants overnight. After we started keeping ducks, I could suddenly garden. So I'm like, oh, now I just transplant cabbages without a second thought. Like, it's totally fine. One time when we kept the ducks under house arrest for a few days because an eagle was coming to eat them, I noticed more and more slugs coming into the garden, even with just a few days of the ducks being off of slug patrol. So I was like, wow, okay, my decision to keep ducks influences my ability to garden, influences where the eagles fly. It's all working together, and my choices affect the landscape. That was a big takeaway for me. Hot. Plus, they're so cute.
We have
Ducks every time.
Yeah, we have I was going to say rule. Maybe it's more like a guideline that things that we bring onto the homestead need to be beautiful and functional at the same time, and your ducks really fit the bill.
Wow. Yeah.
Watch out. Put a couple of environmental educators together. You never know what's going to happen.
I like hanging with the ducks because I can really get down with the ducks. Oh.
What is your favorite part of farming and homesteading?
Wow, going out to milk the goats on a spring morning. Like spring and summer mornings when it's cool and the light is slanting through the trees and the goats are happy to run into the milking room. That feeling keeps me going. That, and I think also just wandering around this place in the spring and summer mornings and evenings during that twilight time, just coming out and being with the landscape and just looking and smelling and listening. That is part of what keeps me motivated, and it's those really sweet moments where it's not just do. Okay, next thing on the task list, like what's gonna die if I don't take care of it right now, but also slowing down and having those really sweet times. And I love the goats and the ponies, and those moments that I'm really working with them and in relationship with them, and it feels like everybody's on the same page. That is really sweet. I think that those might have to be my favorite moments. There's lots of awesome times. I mean, it's kind of every day of summer camp here in a lot of ways, but milking the goats on a summer morning, let's go with that.
Awesome.
On-farm child care center. I'm gonna go grab a bottle of milk.
Okay.
For Pipsqueak. All right, let Pipsqueak out. Come on, Pip.
Okay.
Oh, snack time. You want to feed her?
Yeah.
Hi, do you want some? Oh, what a good goatie. Yeah, she's big enough to wean by now, but, we sometimes wind up with extra milk.
I love all goats, but baby goats are just irresistible.
Yeah.
Little butt scritches. You like it around the ears too? Got a milk stash.
So Pipsqueak was born almost 2 months ago. Hey, don't eat that. Trying to eat the microphone. Classic.
Delicious.
Classic. What's the most troublesome thing I can nibble on? So yeah, Pipsqueak is going to be our next dairy goat. Add to the herd. Her mom and her aunt are in here, and this is my goat herd for now. So the goats, kind of like the ponies, they fulfill a lot of roles on the farm. One is just a sheer adorableness. I do farm skills programs for kids, so the baby goats are just like auxiliary faculty for that, for sure. And we also get milk from them, which is part of the benefit. I mean, they are very cute just in their own right as pets, but I also really enjoy the milk and being able to transform the landscape through the help of the goats. So we cut blackberries, we have to prune our fruit trees, and it is much more motivating to do that when the goats are staring at us like, feed us! I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna cut those blackberries and make that all happen. I milk them twice a day. It's definitely a labor of love, but other people on the farm are able to do it too, so that helps share the load. And it's really fun. It only takes me about 15 minutes to milk. And I like having small goats because just with these 2 small goats, we're still getting 3/4 of a gallon of really creamy milk every day.
Wow.
That is plenty. Sometimes people want more milk, but I'm like, how many mason jars do you want to wash? Because that's the other thing. It's like the more milk you get, the more jars you're washing. So factor that in for sure. Yes.
So what is something that you found really challenging about farming and homesteading, and how have you dealt with that?
One of the most challenging aspects about homesteading was I realized my own internal biases against dealing with dirt and my own food. I have to laugh realizing how little authentic bread labor I grew up with. How it was like, oh, people grow food over there. Like, don't look at that, Alexia. Like, you focus on these important things over here. Like, don't care about where your food comes from. And I have also hungered for authenticity and connection in my life. So to realize that I had my own internal biases against that has been tough to overcome. And I think the best medicine for that has just been time and repetition and just coming out onto the landscape again and again every day and really feeling loved by the landscape. I'm like, oh, actually, this soil and these trees and these birds and these animals want to be in relationship with me and want to be tended by me, and I actually have something to offer them. I can be involved in these processes. I don't need to, hide all that away. I can really bring my gifts to the process of homesteading. I was going to go get my PhD. I was going to go be in academia. I was going to go be a college professor. And now I look at what I'm doing, running a diversified homestead, and I say, this is actually more intellectually challenging and stimulating than pretty much anything I hear my PhD friends talking about doing, because there's so many areas to explore here, and I'm so curious to find out what's going to happen next and what is actually happening in my garden, and then how can I address that? How can I help the processes along? So that's a little bit about how I've overcome that particular challenge, especially because it was a challenge that was inside myself.
Yeah, I think that is such articulate way to express it, and I think so many people have that bias in our modern culture and don't even realize it. Mm-hmm. It's an unconscious thing, and those of us who come to homesteading often, like me for example, didn't grow up in it. Mm-hmm. And when you start to develop an interest, it can also feel really overwhelming, because it really is intellectually and physically challenging to manage that all at once. Mm-hmm. And yet it does put us in a reciprocal relationship. We see the labor that we put into the land come back to us, and that creates this feedback cycle that can be very nourishing on a lot of levels.
Yeah, I think a challenge for me has been the nature good, people bad concept, and then what's been healing for that is to see myself as an active player in the ecology of this farm, and to realize, oh, I have a role as a human being in a landscape that is not just as a consumer, but is actually as a regenerative orchestrator. And how do I use my powers for good?
I love that.
Excuse us, duckies. The composting outhouses have been a key part of integrating the humans into the ecology here. It's like, wow, once we started getting a Humanure composting system set up, I saw tremendous changes in the landscape. And I've had the finished compost tested. It's like grade A stuff. Again, if you had told me that I would be pooping in a bucket when I was in high school, I would never have believed you. Like, there's no way that this would have been remotely conceptually possible. But now I've just gotten used to it. Humans can get used to lots of different things. So if you're in a situation where it's possible to use Humanure, I'm just encouraging you.
So Alexia, what is one of your favorite farm meals?
Oh, every season has its own delights. And I think the summer tomato, cucumber, homemade goat feta salad, that's just a hallmark of the summertime. And then you add in the fresh sweet corn. It's just the kind of the pinnacle of the solar energy of the year. But then we start digging up the potatoes and we start harvesting the squash and eating those in the fall, and they're just incredible. And like the winter chicken soups, just top notch. But I think my favorite is in the first part of the summer when we've just been eating dried apples for a few months. The first strawberries. First strawberries, I just want to weep. The feeling of that sun-warmed sweetness that might be the most pleasure in the year. But every season we eat delicious food, and that's the name of the game.
Yeah, I really hear you on the strawberries. We got our first crop of strawberries this year, and it was so amazing and special and delicious. And then we were waiting for that second set to ripen, and we looked out one morning and a coyote puppy had chewed into our fence, and she had taken them all for herself, which was just fine after my heart sank a little bit. But
I was noticing the juvenile robins on our blueberry bushes today. I was like, oh, okay, time to bring out the netting. All right.
Yep, healthy boundaries are important on the homestead.
For sure.
So for some of our neighbors out there who are watching this and maybe are just thinking about being curious about getting interested in homesteading, or they're longing for a life like yours, do you have any tips for getting started?
Oh, so many people come and they're like, ooh, you're living the dream. I want to be at a place just like this. I'm like, be careful what you wish for, because it does look wonderful and it is delicious. I just also want to caution people that wherever you are, there you are, and there is good work within walking distance for you, for your dreams. People don't see all the gross and gruesome things that happen here when they come and say, oh, you're living the dream. I'm like, oh, yes, would you like to see the property taxes, perhaps? You know, like, there's a whole administrative side to this. There's the whole, like, how do we deal with the rats aspect. So I don't want to romanticize what we do here, or make it seem better than what anybody else is doing. I just keep coming back to that observation piece. How do you as a sensory creature relate to the world around you? If you go out and watch the weather for 5 minutes a day, even if you live in the middle of the city, you are preparing for homesteading. If you just watch the rain and use your senses, you're preparing for homesteading. You know, if you read some awesome books about what is possible. But really the direct experience is where it's at. I've met so many people who have a whole bunch of books where they've circled all the references to edible plants. But I'm like, can you walk out your door and find an edible plant somewhere? That relationship with the actual creature is what helps build those threads of relationship to the world around you that for me are what it's about. Like I sink into Hawthorn Farm and I have a relationship with all the different creatures around me, with the plants in the garden. Those little onions over there, I started them from seed. I remember when they were just babies. So building relationship, which is not easy in every context, that for me is what's helped me be a better homesteader and grow more delicious food and be connected to my community. So take time to observe the world. Take time to check in with senses. Take time to sit still and listen. Wherever you happen to be, I've never found that to be wasted time.
So Alexia, do you have any final thoughts to share with us?
I would go back to that observation piece of meet the people around you. Meet the tree people and the bird people and the cloud people. They are, in my experience, excited when humans can reach out and connect with them. And maybe that's a little out there for people. That's totally fine. You can take it however you want. But to sit down and listen and engage your senses is just some of the best medicine I've found. Not just for myself, but also for the world around me. So give it a try.
Thank you so much, Alexia, for spending time with us today and giving us some insight into your journey with homesteading and sharing your farm with us and all of our neighbors. I really appreciate it.
Such a treat to have you here. I've been looking forward to this. It's wonderful to share the farm here in the height of summer. And I'm wishing you and everyone watching good luck with all your homestead dreams. It's worth it.
Well, there you go. There's really no one right way to homestead, only the way that's right for you. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.
Okay, let's get some picturesque goats in here.